Hey guys, Kinda Funny is having a holiday sale. That's right. If you go to kindafunny.com/store for the next week, from Black Friday until the next Friday, you can get 10% off everything in the entire store. That's all the beautiful shirts that you know and love. That's the cups, the mugs, the stickers, all of that stuff is there. And the Let Tim Host shirts there for this week only. You need that. You need that in your life. Oh, are these all the T-Shirt Tuesday shirts that we exclusively had only on those Tuesdays? Yeah, they're back for 1 week only. All of them in one place. Buy them for you. Buy them for your sister, your friend, your neighbor, whoever you want to buy them for, even people you don't know. It's going to be great. 10% off. kindafunny.com/store. This episode is brought to you by Loot Crate. Would you classify yourself as a geek, gamer, or pop culture nerd? Then this is the subscription box for you. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items of gamer and pop culture licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/KFGames and enter code KFGames to save $3 on any new subscription. Not that long ago, and depending on where you live, not so far away, Loot Crate blasted off into a voyage across the galaxy, searching the far reaches of space to find universally awesome gear. Using December's Star Wars The Force Awakens loot as the launch pad, we landed on some equally cosmic items from Halo 5 and more. With an exclusive Funko Pop and an exclusive shirt in this month's crate, this is the loot you're looking for. Remember, you only have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, that's it. It's over. So go to lootcrate.com/KFGames and enter code KFGames to save $3 on your new subscription today. Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm not even gonna get into it anymore. Fuck it.
as always, the last topic's brought to you by the Kinda Funny forums. Go to kindafunny.com/Gamescast topic to leave a post about what you want us to answer on this beautiful, beautiful show for all the beautiful, beautiful kids. The big,
beautiful kids, as we call them during the
Extra life.
extra life.
Valiant Villain says, "Hey gentlemen, my question today is this. Do you think you'll play video games forever? With the rise of VR and mobile, gaming seems to be headed in a different direction. With big series like Metal Gear and Witcher coming to an end, gaming's stepping into a new age, and one I seem to be slowly narrowing my interest in. So again, I ask, will you be a gamer forever?"
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, that's my biggest concern why I want to die young, is that I don't want to get to the point where I can't use the controller, keep my fingers up, or move around.
Dude, by that point, there's going to be other controller inputs are going to be there.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's what I'm holding out for.
It's going to be fun.
Remember when we played Infamous Second Son using our eyes?
Yeah, I do remember that actually.
That was really weird, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was just a test Sony was doing, but it was cool. Like you could replace the
left analog.
left analog stick with your eyes by like looking at the screen and stuff like that. It was really
no,
cool.
it would be.
No, it would be. Yeah, it was right.
You're right.
You're fucking me up.
Well, you hesitated, and then I said it, and you know I don't know my right from my left.
You don't know a lot.
I'll tell you that story. I was once driving, and I'm driving, and Poe's shotgun, and Poe goes, "All right, make a left here," or whatever it was, and I did this on the wheel, and he goes, "Are you fucking kidding?" we were college students.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a second.
I will always be a gamer. I will always play the games that we grew up with and that we're playing now. I don't agree that the nature of gaming is changing. Like I think that I was fearful that it was, and that was what I was kidding around before about going down with the ship, because I'm not gonna this mobile free to play race to the bottom fucking garbage. I'm not playing that stuff. And what we've seen this generation is a renaissance in console sales. And what we were talking about before was that, PlayStation 4 at about 30 million shipped, more than that now because the numbers were reported September 30th. Is about to pass N64 after 2 years on the market. Its next target is Super Nintendo and Genesis. It's like pretty incredible how quickly it's selling, and Atari 2600. And then slowly it's gonna be 50, and then 60, and then 70, and then the console's not gonna stop. Xbox One and PS4 combined are selling 60% better than their predecessors at this point on the market. So I do think that it's not going to stop anytime soon. And I think VR is going to have more hardcore sensibilities. I think what people are afraid about with VR is that it's also going to have non-gaming implications, which I think is going to help proliferate it. So tourism,
absolutely, I think the non-gaming implications are going to be how VR gets into people's homes and how people get their fire lit about VR. I mean, so many production companies in Hollywood are already working on VR stuff just because the applications beyond gaming are really going to be the thing that makes that thing catch on. I think that gaming is gaming is broadening, and I think that the console sales speak to that. Like, there's a broader market of people who are like, yeah, I'll spend money on a console, but then there's also people who are not paying a dime and they're playing free-to-play stuff and they're playing on their phone. And I think that it's just going to continue, evolving, and the games that we see now, we're going to see a lot of those in 50 years, but we're also going to see a lot of different stuff, and it's going to be friggin' cool.
Yeah, I'm really interested. I'm never going to stop playing games, but at the same time, I think me playing games, I've already stopped. Like I feel like I hit that point where things just aren't the same anymore. Like I grew up being in love with these things and like them all being these fresh new experiences. And I feel like it's been a really long time since I've been like before it was my life playing the games. Now my life is the games and I like the games, but playing them is not so much my de facto standard of what I need to do. And I hope that changes, but I don't see it changing.
Well, yeah, the parameters of your life change as you grow older. Your job situation, your family situation, your living situation, all this changes. And gaming, I think there's so many different ways for gaming to adapt to that. You know, like, yeah, like did I beat The Witcher 3? No. Is it like one of my favorite games of the year? Yeah. Am I ever going to beat another open world adventure game in my life? Very possible I will not. I mean, just because the trend on those things is like you got to put 200 hours into it. Am I going to play another 200 matches of Rocket League? Probably. But, you know, like that's all going to depend on what kind of time I have available. And I think that gaming is articulated enough that you can fit it in if you want to. And so, you know, as long as you're getting the kind of satisfaction, you're finding the kind of satisfaction you like from games, there's no reason to stop.
Yeah,
definitely.
Can't stop.
Won't stop.
Xavier Alonso says, hey guys, I was wondering, what was that special game that made you love a genre that you weren't too fond of? For me, it was Lunar Silver Star Story Complete on PS1. First JRPG that hooked me till the end. Love the shows. Keep up the good work.
It's a fantastic game. That's a fantastic game, man. Working Designs back in the late 90s was doing work, dude, like to get some of these games over. And
it's right there in the title.
Yeah, it is. You know, Lunar Silver Star Story and Eternal Blue, whatever, these are games that we never dreamed we were going to get in that form, especially because of their heritage on Sega systems. So it's that's a great example of a game that they get people in the JRPGs. I want to say that Medal of Honor, the original Medal of Honor, is probably the game that got me into shooters. I'm a huge shooter fan now. I don't play them online, but I like playing single-player shooters a lot, and I have a soft spot for Resistance, and I have a soft spot for Singularity, and even third-person shooters like Vanquish. And I wasn't a shooter guy. I was a role-playing game and an action and a side-scrolling guy when growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, and into the 90s, and was a huge into them. My PS1 was like my fucking RPG machine. And when I played Medal of Honor, I'm like, this is awesome. This is really, really, really awesome, and it made me appreciate shooters and made me want to play them. So I would say that's probably the example. That's still a really special game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Fire Emblem because up until then I like platformers, I liked light RPGs like Pokemon and stuff like that, and even Final Fantasy. But I'd never really gotten into the strategy stuff at all, and it wasn't until Melee when I found out Marth and Roy were characters from a franchise I didn't even know about. I was like, I like these characters. They're the ones I use. I want to know what game they're from. And I started playing and I was just like, holy shit, this is a whole type of game I didn't even know existed. And then since then, there's, I played a whole bunch of dabbling in Final Fantasy Tactics and Tactics Ogre and all that stuff.
Classic games.
And it's cool. That genre is so amazing. And it's probably one of my favorite types of gameplay that I didn't even know existed until a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we don't get many of them anymore either, which is a shame. Valkyria Chronicles coming to PS4, which is which is huge. And that's going to be the next big one we get, I think.
For me, Advance Wars. I was not a fan of like turn-based strategy like that or whatever, and I just never found a game that clicked for me. I tried different things, and that was a PC thing too for a long, long time. But Advance Wars on DS, man, that was it. Or no,
Game Boy Advance.
Thank you. Sorry, I think I might have ended up playing again on my DS. Game Boy Advance. That was. I mean, I remember being downstairs with the light on, trying to get the more light on the screen to play to see where it's at, and the fog of war and all that shit. That was awesome.
I can't say that it like particularly ignited a lasting passion for RTSs, but when I played Comet Crash on PlayStation 3,
That's
I got
a good game.
so into it. It was this like one screen, that you don't scroll around the map. You're basically a floating spaceship and you're building structures that automatically generate units that will just automatically stream towards the enemy. So it was part RTS and part it was more like tower defense and tower offense. So you would build your generators and you would also build your defensive turrets in a way that would create a maze for the other units to go through. And I just got so into that game. A couple coworkers of mine did as well. And so, there's nothing like having a coworker next to you in their desk and to get you fired up about a game.
Yeah.
Because you can play with them. They're right there. Comet Crash. Yeah, that was a fascinating game.
That's a deep cut. I appreciate that you even know that game because a lot of people just.
I knew you would like that one, Colin.
Yeah, I love PSN.
That's for your boy Colin M.
I love PSN deep cuts more than anything in this world.
Chrono206 says, what are the chances for a Ninja Gaiden collection / Ninja Gaiden 4 announcement? Thanks and keep up the good work. Do you have any insight into this, Colin?
No, it's minimal. I think that well, he's talking about Ninja Gaiden, like the reimagining of Ninja Gaiden.
I think it would have happened. I mean, we already kind of did get the re-release on last gen.
Yeah, and Sigma games and all that kind of stuff were coming out. And the thing about Ninja Gaiden that I think, about the Xbox Ninja Gaiden games were that people really loved that first one. It was brutally hard. I mean, that game was really good. But I don't think that there was a lot of diminishing returns, I think, with that series for a lot of people. And
I think it was
that,
just up to 3.
Yeah,
people love 2.
Yeah, people like 2, but I think that it reminds me of Devil May Cry a little bit, where I think that people, or even Onimusha, where I think people are like, all right, like, we don't really need this anymore. Of course, we do need more Onimusha, but
Yes.
but I think that what I would like to see Tecmo do with that IP is go back to the originals, because Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, and 3 on NES are like really exceptional games. They're a mixture of Mega Man and Castlevania basically in their mechanics. They're very fast games though. But the sub weapon up B kind of thing, like to use your sub weapons, it's a very Castlevania game. It's very inspired by that, but it's more inspired by Mega Man in terms of its stage layout and stuff like that. And it's brutally fucking hard. And so that was always been Ninja Gaiden's hallmark, is the difficulty. The first Ninja Gaiden game is fucking really hard. These are really hard games. And I'd love to see them like go back similar to what Capcom did with Mega Man 9 and 10 and go back and make those games again. To like do something a little simpler, a little cheaper. They can probably make a game like that for $1 million or less. So it's, I'd prefer to see them do something like that. I don't think you're going to see much more Ninja Gaiden. You saw a little bit of a renaissance with it on Vita actually, but yeah, I don't think so.
You can't ever count out a name like that has some kind of cachet in video game history, right? Just because of the fiendish love for nostalgia that runs through the whole industry. But I do think that they will have to do something like Tomb Raider-esque. Like, there'll have to be some kind of rebooting element to it. It'll have to take some kind of modern form that takes, the challenge and the nimbleness of, Ryu Hayabusa, and then makes it maybe it's a platformer, 2D platformer, maybe it's an open world game. I don't know, whatever. They need some strong game design gimmick and then attach the name to it. The name is not going to lead that development, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the conundrum is, it reminds me a little bit of Strider, where they made that, Capcom put out that Strider almost 2.5 HD Castle or Metroidvania kind of game. And I actually thought it was like really underrated. I thought that game was fucking awesome. I think that you need to go back to its core and then figure out what made it good to begin with, and then go from there. I'm with you, though, in the sense that Tecmo Koei doesn't really need to do this, because it reminds me a little bit of Valve to a much lesser degree, where we talk about Half-Life 3 and like the imperative of doing it. Like, there's no reason for them to make that game. They will, but there's no reason for them to actually do it. And I think with Tecmo Koei, they've found some money makers in Dead or Alive. They found money makers even in the Atelier games and stuff like that, where it's like, you don't need to take too many risks. This isn't a huge publisher. To make a game like Ninja Gaiden and to make it viable, like, they don't really, when you think about it, they don't really make AAA games anymore. Like real... if you don't count them as SO games and stuff like that, which I don't. I think they're A games, but I don't think Omega Force makes AAA games. You have to wonder the viability of even a company like that investing the money, because to make a proper Ninja Gaiden game that this person's probably envisioning would cost $30-40 million maybe. So it's not a cheap investment.
Yeah, I disagree with you guys. I think that there is definitely a chance of us getting more, because I think that there is like a hole for that type of game that we're not really getting so much in this generation. Like, there's Bloodborne and there's stuff like that, but that's different than
way different
than the Devil May Cries and those things, and like this generation, like the Bayonettas and stuff. And when you're looking at like the PS4 and Xbox One, there's not enough. Like, there isn't too much for those hardcore motherfuckers.
Sure,
I wouldn't be surprised if sometime we saw an announcement. I don't think it'd be a Tomb Raider-esque reboot, but at least like a reboot of the Xbox franchise with Platinum.
Sure, but remember, to that point, you could be right, but remember that the trends in these kinds of games, Bayonetta 2 wouldn't have happened if it wasn't on a Nintendo console. Then no one else wanted it. Sega didn't want it. If you look at games like DMC, like Ninja Theory is not going to do another DMC game. They could have very easily. It didn't sell that well. They re-released Devil May Cry 4 HD. I don't think it did that well. They're exploring games like Darksiders, which is more of a Zelda-esque game, but still a third-person action game. You're right, but I don't know if it's going to be a Ninja Gaiden game. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I like Ryu Hayabusa or Ryu.
Lone Desk 42 says, "Hi guys, what do you think are the positives and negatives about backwards compatibility for the Xbox One?" I don't know if there's many negatives.
There's no negative for the consumer.
Yeah,
there's a lot of negatives for the publishers. These are
robbed them of all their HD remake stuff.
Yeah, that and
remasters.
I think it's got blowback on Sony now because a studio, like we talk about Mass Effect, right? there's got to be a Mass Effect Trilogy HD re-released on PS4 in time for Andromeda, yet there's no need for that on Xbox. So does EA put in the work to release that only on PlayStation? They're like cutting their audience in half. I think the optics of it is really bad, actually, for them to even fuck with that. It put Microsoft. That's why I think that was the biggest announcement at E3, because that really fucking put Sony on the ropes in terms of what they're doing with Gaikai and PlayStation Now and stuff like that, and didn't show tone deafness, but showed a pretty shrewd changing of strategy on Microsoft's part, that they're actually going to sacrifice the dollars they can get from HD remakes by making Xbox Live basically.
I wonder how much that
available.
actually would affect sales, though. Like, just like the fact that you could play the old one on it, would that really affect an HD version of those games being made? And like,
Well, they're already in HD, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I do,
like
because
definitive edition or whatever.
but you could get maybe. I mean, if you can get Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 for $30 combined on Xbox Live, or you can buy them for $60 on Xbox One on a disc like that. I mean, that's going to look bad.
But I mean, if there's like added stuff and it's like, you know, the definitive edition, and it's more, I don't know.
All the
Personally,
DLC and this,
I'd
that, and
want
the
that
other.
stuff. Like
I
always,
would
like,
too,
even now
but
thinking
I mean,
about
you
it.
can predict is pretty easily how that's going to go down. You know, I think.
But I mean, I think it's like also just the ease of use of how people buy games. Like, yeah, the people that are like real thrifty motherfuckers are like, well, I could buy it like this. But the majority of people are just going to see the $60 game on the storefront and be like, oh, I want that. You know?
Yeah.
It'll definitely distract some, but I don't think it'll distract a majority.
Let's see. Let's end on this one. Chetty says, hey guys, every once in a while I'll see a games journalist tweet a link to an article on a competitor's site. I don't quite understand why someone would want to drive traffic to a competitor's site, especially if their outlet has already posted an article about the topic. Can you talk about the strange competition between gaming media sites, or maybe the lack thereof? Thanks, and keep up the fantastic work. Thought this was an interesting one to have with you on the show.
I work for a games media website. So, like, speaking personally, if I am tweeting something from a competitor's site, it's because, I mean, I don't, maybe to my employer's chagrin, I don't necessarily scour to be like, do we have this version of the site? I mean, if it's a news article, yeah. But if it's a feature, and then we're not going to have that feature on our site. And so I'm going to link to that site because I find it interesting, and because, like, for me, it's about, and for I think of a lot of my coworkers, it's about just like being kind of a well-rounded like consumer of media. Like I tweet GameSpot stuff a lot, but I don't want to be only tweeting GameSpot stuff. I want to be perceived as I am an omnivore of games media coverage. I do check out other sites. I do follow other links, and I'm interested where interesting content is. I'm gonna show the stuff that I do and the stuff that my coworkers do that I think is cool, but I'm definitely also like down with sharing stuff that you guys do and other people do that is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's definitely just the generation we're in now of it all, right? Of like, I think the walls and the barriers have fallen away. Like now it very much is everybody's people. I remember when I started at IGN and like we hated GameSpot and GameSpot hated us. And like Brad Shoemaker and I'll joke around about it now, how like they weren't supposed to talk to us at events and like we'd be next to each other and we wouldn't say anything to, you know what I mean? And like now Brad's a friend and he's super cool. And it's like, man, that was weird that when we started it was so old school that it was like, for real, Jets and Sharks kind of shit. Like, don't react.
It was odd, yeah. But like and speaking of Jets and Sharks, anytime I see like IGN people on the street, I like to pull this move. It's just really fun.
Exactly. And so now, but now it's one of those things where I think like the industry is like, there's the site and then there's you. And like the fact that you go and hang out with all these people who work at different places and you want to support your friends, and everybody moves around too. The business is very incestuous now. It's incestuous.
Yeah.
And I also think, people, not to go too far into it or whatever. One of the people that I really admire is Jason Schreier at Kotaku, and I think he does great work. I think Gawker overall is shit, and I mean, I've said that pretty openly. Like I think that site that body of sites lacks scruples. I think that they are going way overboard with the way they attack people. They out people and they do all sorts of fucked up shit. But that doesn't reflect the way I feel about Jason's work. You know what I mean? I think Jason and Patrick over there are doing great work, and I'm friends with them, and I link to their stuff. So you can have an intellectually honest conversation about, like, I think Gawker is garbage, but I don't think Kotaku is garbage, and I don't think the people that work there are garbage. I think that they're some of the best people in the industry, and so you have to look at things like selectively and find the people that you trust and you like. It doesn't necessarily mean you endorse the outlet, and it doesn't mean necessarily that you endorse everyone that works there. When I worked at IGN, my opinions run very not parallel to many people's at my site, and they still let me write and still let me say what I needed to say, and I still do those things to this day. So I think it's part of being intellectually honest is finding the people that you like and linking to those things and the pertinent stories. When someone breaks a big scoop, it might be easiest to go to your site and then link out to the citation of that, but maybe it's better and more honest to link to the original source. So that's the kind of stuff that that's kind of how I feel about it anyway.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of just supporting people. So it's like any way you can actually support the individuals, I think that's a good thing. And like when 99% of this stuff is just the exact same news story said by 10 different people in slightly different ways, it's like it doesn't matter. But whenever someone does a creative feature, or not even creative, just a feature that I'm like, oh, this is interesting for whatever reason, I like sharing that stuff. And even when it's like videos and things, like I had a different experience because I was in the video team at IGN, but like it got really weird sometimes when instead of our competitors being GameSpot, it was our competitors being YouTube. And like if I post, like I got pulled aside sometimes for just like, oh, why are you promoting this YouTube channel? It's like, this has nothing to do with what we're doing.
Right.
But then that was like old school kind of.
Yep.
That was the old school of the new school. Like there's been phases, and like
people waking up to what
now
it is
people
right
get
now.
it. Now
Yeah.
people are like, oh, this is the era of collaboration. This is the era of everybody kind of like being friends with each other, because that's how people kind of grow. And if you're not doing that, and if you're being a dick and you're just like, what I say is all that matters, your shit's not good, or I'm not even going to talk about your stuff, you're going to fall behind and you're not going to go anywhere. Like it's, I think, very important for you to support the people that you think are doing cool things in your area of expertise, because like that's what is going to make you grow, and that's going to make those people look at you in a different way. Like today, BuzzFeed put out the start of their new like 12-part series that you can buy on iTunes and get it early and stuff. And this is their first BuzzFeed motion pictures. Like it's like a movie that they're putting out. I'm like, I support that. Like I'm excited to watch it. And I tweeted about it. I was like, you should go support this. See if this is cool. And like, I like that. I like that there's people doing different things. And like, you guys aren't going to tell me not to do that shit, because why would you?
Well, I think you have free will, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But
Everyone has free will in this company except Kevin.
Yeah, I think you just have. I agree with you. It reminds me a little bit of like things have changed. I've been in this industry, and Greg has long enough to know that it's changed radically into the way we look at our competitors. And I agree that the old way of doing things is dying. So like people have to get on board or perish. And so to Chris's point, like if you see a great article, you should support it. That's why I was so bummed about Grantland. Like, and I used to say, even when I worked at IGN, I used to be like, Grantland is the best website on the internet. Like, and like I said that as an employee of another website. That's just me being honest with the way I feel. It doesn't mean that I hate the things that I used to do. It means that this is fucking good. And so then you find the individuals like Bill Simmons, for instance, and you can follow them around. It's becoming about individuals and about, you don't need an audience of millions anymore to survive and to reach people and stuff. So I think it's all positive, but I think people have to remember to not throw the baby out with the bathwater sometimes with this shit, like, and that's my Gawker example, where I was so disgusted with what they did to that guy from Condé Nast. I thought it was like one of the fucking most disgusting things I'd ever seen in my life, but that's not Jason's fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, so, that's kind of where I stand on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Kind of Funny Gamescast, the first ever, episode 47, in fact. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
You guys, it's been awesome. This has been really fun. Thank you for hosting me.
Once again,
thank you guys for having me.
buy his book.
Yeah, buy the book.
It's on Amazon. Links
It's
in
a
the
really fun
description.
read. I think you're going to like it. You're going to laugh. You're going to feel good in your heart.
You're gonna
It's
cry.
gonna be
So
great.
many emotions.
You might feel emotions, man. There's some emotional video games out there.
There definitely is. Thank you guys, as always.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Here we are.
Thank
I got to
you.
go lay down. My back hurts.
Yeah, things are happening. Bye. Love you. This episode is brought to you by Loot Crate. Would you classify yourself as a geek gamer or pop culture nerd? Then this is the subscription box for you. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items of gamer and pop culture licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/KFGames and enter code KFGames to save $3 on any new subscription. Not that long ago, and depending on where you live, not so far away, Loot Crate blasted off into a voyage across the galaxy, searching the far reaches of space to find universally awesome gear. Using December's Star Wars The Force Awakens loot as the launch pad, we landed on some equally cosmic items from Halo 5 and more. With an exclusive Funko Pop and an exclusive shirt in this month's crate, this is the loot you're looking for. Remember, you only have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, that's it. It's over. So go to lootcrate.com/KFGames and enter code KFGames to save $3 on your new subscription today.